Hey, School Zone podcast listeners, Matt coming at you from cloudy Stephenville, Texas. Excited today to get a chance to chat with another guy who's in Texas. He's not a Texan, as you'll be aware of here in a minute, but we appreciate him being here. They're actually out of the Austin area. Kenrick Tyrell of Marathon Kids. Kendrick, thanks for entering the School Zone.
No problems, Matt. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So give us a little background on you, Kendrick, how you find yourself in Austin, and then dive right into where the heck Marathon Kids got started and you know the basics of what you guys do.
Yeah, so a bit of background on myself. I'm Australian, which you'll probably work out by listening to this after a few seconds. Yeah, I'm originally from Central Australia. Bounced around a number of different cities in Australia in my time there through my 20s. Actually played Australian football professionally and semi-professionally for over probably a 10-year period. And during that time, I actually secured a job with the Australian Football League as well. Moved to the north of Australia, and I was using Australian football as a tool to improve the health of the youth up in the north of Australia, particularly the Indigenous youth of Australia, using football as a tool to improve their health and keep them in line for a healthy lifestyle into their future.
So then how did you end up coming to Austin? How did you get started up with Marathon Kids?
Yeah, so it was quite random, actually. I was traveling about 2.5 years ago. I had some friends here in Austin, and I came through and just fell in love with the city. And I saw this job advertised. Actually, a friend put it in front of my eyes, and just fell in love with the mission. Thought it was a great cause. It was a similar role to what I was doing back with the Australian Football Australia. And then I just simply applied for the job and was lucky enough to join a great team at Marathon Kids. And the rest is history. I've been here 2.5 years. It's gone really quickly, but I've enjoyed every minute of it. And just very grateful to be working at such a great organization like Marathon Kids.
Now, have you been able to embrace Texas football since getting here?
I've definitely embraced it. I love it. I've been to the last 2 UT games here in Austin. They played away last week and they had a bye as well. So I think they play tomorrow night against the Iowans. Iowans, is that a word?
Yeah.
Is that what they call themselves up there?
Yeah.
So looking forward to that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've got a burnt orange T-shirt and fully embraced the football culture here in Texas. I love it.
Now, by Australian football, I assume you mean rugby, correct?
Not quite. No,
not quite.
No. Every time I say Australian football, everyone asks me. The first question they ask me is that a rugby? I say no, not quite. Is it soccer? No, not quite. It's actually a unique game to Australia. It's huge in Australia. It's by far the biggest professional sporting code in Australia. Really hard to explain in a couple of minutes. So if you're interested, I'd encourage you to get on YouTube and have a look. We play on a field probably 3 times the size of an American football field. And there's big tall posts at each end of the field. And the objective is to sort of kick the ball through these big tall posts to score points. And there's no offside. There's a lot of tackling. There's no to the naked eye, it really looks like there's no rules at all. But there's actually quite a lot of rules. But very hard to explain in a couple of minutes. So if you're interested, jump on YouTube and check it out. It's a great sport.
So give us some background on Marathon Kids, how it got started, and what your mission is.
So Marathon Kids actually started here in Austin, Texas, just 20 years ago in 1995. It was founded by a lady named Kay Morris, and she was a self-proclaimed middle-aged slow runner who had the mission of running a marathon. And through her time in training for the marathon, she developed a running log, or what we now call a mileage log, which really helped her track her progress and help her reach her goals on her way to run her first marathon. And after she completed her marathon, she thought that the simple tool of having a log to track her miles and keep her accountable in her training would be a great tool for kids to increase their physical activity through the vehicle of running. And she developed the program Marathon Kids, where back then the goal was for a kid to run a marathon slowly, tracking small distances along the way until they'd reached the distance of a marathon over the course of their school year. So that's basically how it got started. Between now and back then, there's been a lot of research done by our organisation, and we're now one of the only evidence-based, research-driven running programs actually to run 4 marathons over the course of the year. So if you put that in miles, that's 104.8 miles. And that's basically how the program got started. There's been a lot of change. Probably for 18 years after it started, it was predominantly in Texas, in and around Central Texas. There were some Marathon Kids running clubs in Dallas and Houston and in West Texas, in El Paso. It had a few coaches catch onto the program on the East and West Coast. And probably about 2.5 years ago, it was actually just as I started my job here at Marathon Kids, Nike actually noticed the value of the Marathon Kids program. And we were lucky enough to partner up with Nike. We made some changes to the program as far as the distance was concerned. And obviously with Nike, we had some really good marketing opportunities and brought in some real incentives for the kids, obviously being Nike incentives. So when kids reach a marathon milestone, they are rewarded with a really cool Nike incentive now.
So do you guys work with communities? Do you work with schools? Do you work with kind of all of the above? How does all that work?
Yeah, so we actually offer the program in schools, community-based organizations, and at home with your family. So it's really flexible and customizable to the way you want to run the program. My role at Marathon Kids, I'm a community development manager in the school space. So really my job is to engage new schools and school districts, help them get registered and implement the program, and fulfill their orders, help fulfill their orders and work with them throughout the season to ensure that they have a quality program running. But the beauty of the program is that a kid can be participating in the school space and then go home with their family, and their parents can actually participate in the program as well. And the parent can act as a coach at home. And then if they go to a community-based organization on the weekend, they can participate in the program as well if it's all tied in together in a tight-knit way. It doesn't often happen like that, where the 3 facets are tied in together, but many kids participate at the school level and then go home and track miles with their parents as well, where the parent kind of acts as a coach and kind of signs off on their miles as well.
So initially the program was to run a marathon. Now it's actually to run 4, right? A little over 100 miles. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. So the goal for every participant in the Marathon Kids program is to run 104.8 miles which is the equivalent of 4 marathons. If you divide that by 4, it's 26.2. They start off doing really small distances, tracking their miles along the way. They gradually build up. We hope by the end of the program, each participant can run roughly between 1 or 2 miles without stopping, and they would have improved their endurance and gained confidence in their athletic ability. And obviously, we've got these cool rewards to keep them motivated going along the way. 104.8 miles is no easy feat, especially for an 8-year-old to run. But it's a big goal, and it's a big goal for a reason. There's a lot more tied into the program other than just running out on the track. Goal setting is a huge part of the program, and there's other pillars involved with it as well, such as social inclusion, grit, resilience, group tracking, several other factors that are beneficial to the participant other than actually getting out on the track and putting those miles in.
So let's say a school says, man, we want to get our kids more active. We like what you guys stand for and what you're trying to teach with the program. What does that look like in a school environment? Is it, once a week? Is it a couple of times a week? Is it, yeah.
Yep. So the program really starts with a dedicated coach. Probably one of our big strengths as an organization is our focus on the coach and upskilling the coach and developing the coach, whether they're a runner or whether they are just simply interested in increasing their kids' physical activity. They don't have to be a great runner or have run a marathon before or anything like that. It starts with a dedicated coach. They have a group of kids. It could be as small as a group of 5 or 10 kids. Some of our run clubs in our schools, we have over 1,000 participants. We have a school in Houston in Piney Point, which actually has 1,200 participants running in the Marathon Kids program. It's open for kids K through to 12. And depending on what season length you choose, kind of determines how often you run. So our season lengths are broken down into a 3, 6, or 9-month season. In the school space, most of our school clubs choose the 9-month option. Gives them a bit of flexibility between the start of school, whether that's in September, right through to May or June. And they tend to run between 1 to 3 times a week, depending on their availability and how they can implement into the school. The beauty of the program is really customizable, flexible to the coach and how much time they have. So if they can implement it in the PE class, then that's perfect. That's a really great option. But a lot of our clubs do it before and after school, a couple of times a week, or they maybe once a week, and then kind of give the kids homework to take home with their parents, and we encourage the parents to become actively involved and help them track their miles until the next running session the following week.
So then is there technology that you guys provide to where they've got essentially an electronic log, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we do have a Marathon Kids mobile application, and that's integrated into the Nike Run Club application. So that's an option for schools, and it's very popular among our coaches. But to be honest, our traditional mileage log, which is simply an A4 piece of paper with a bunch of kind of running tracks on it that kids, after their run, go and fill out how far they've run by colouring in a small running track. That seems to be our most popular way of the kids tracking miles. And to be honest, it was developed through Kay Morris, our founder's original kind of running log, or mileage log as we now call it. So that's normally kept at the school after the kids go for their run. They come in, they colour their mileage log, and it's great visual representation of where they're at and how far they have to go to their next goal. The coach can easily see how far they have to go and get their rewards ready when they're just about to approach that milestone. Alternatively, the mobile app is really cool as well. Obviously, with a group of 1,000 kids, it's a little hard to to implement the Marathon Kids mobile application, particularly when some of these kids don't have a smartphone. So the traditional mileage log works really well, and our kids love it.
I had a good question, and now it just completely escaped me. So is there curriculum or lesson plans and that type of thing that can go along with the program as well, so that you're talking more about, you touched on grit and some of those types of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So I touched on before that the coach doesn't necessarily have to be a great runner, a good coach. Once you've identified your coach within the school place, you then identify your runners and you register your club. The coach will go to our website at marathonkids.org, register the club. Once they've registered, it will what we call our coaches club, which is on the back end of our website. And here they'll have access to a range of resources, the mileage logs, which I mentioned before. We have fuel logs, which is a nutritional component to the program where kids can track the healthy fruit and vegetables they're eating. The session cards and curriculum is a huge part of the program. So if there's a coach who's never coached before or is not experienced in running, our session cards lay out the program from mile 1 right up to 104.8. And that has a bunch of tips on it, ranging from warm-ups and cool-downs to motivational tips, to running techniques. And there's a bunch of running games in there as well. We know 104.8 miles is a big goal, and that's a lot of running. So we have some really cool running games in there, which are based on our research and our evidence-based model. So if coaches are looking to change it up, or they might be in the north of America where it gets really cold, they can go indoors and play our based running games, and they can track miles that way as well. And there's a range of resources to promote your club, to get volunteers involved, to get parents involved. A lot of it's free, so you can go to our website at marathonkids.org, go to the coaches tab. If you look at the resources tab, there is a bunch of free resources which can really lay out the season, how a season would look at your particular location. And then obviously once you register your club, you'll get access to that back end of that website where all the really good tracking tools are, and a range of other resources.
So if a school wanted to start the program, what's the process to do that?
Yeah, so each year our development team works really hard to raise a bunch of funds, and we generally have a few weeks where we have a grant process available to schools. The cost of the program is $15 per kid, and that basically covers 4 Nike incentives. Now, the grant process can kind of eliminate that fee. It's actually just closed. It closed at the end of last week for this season coming. We had nearly 1,000 applications across the country. We're actually active in 50 states across America, so it's become really competitive over the last couple of years. But the grant process is really geared towards high need schools with a coach that's really ready to implement the program. If you don't want to rely on the grant process, then it's simply $15 per kid, and that really covers off the 4 Nike incentives. I actually have one of the incentives here to show you. So when kids complete their first marathon, this is one of the T-shirts they get. So you can see the 26.2 and counting there, and the Marathon Kids and Nike logo. So that's just one of the incentives. The next couple of incentives are shoe accessories, and each season you participate in Marathon Kids, the incentives change and become a little bit better as you go on. So we are a fee-for-service program, but there's lots of opportunities with the fee. Once you register a club, your coach will have access to our model, which we call our Leadership Academy. This consists of live and virtual trainings where we go through a range of modules to upskill the coaches I mentioned before. We also had, we've got a great partnership with USA Track and Field Foundation where there's opportunities for our clubs to get Olympic athletes and track and field stars to their school club and help run sessions and make an appearance there, which the kids and coaches and this whole school really loves. We've got some great examples of that on our website as well. And obviously having a really big partner with Nike, depending on where your location is in the States, there's some really cool opportunities to get your running club involved with some Nike events. So, it's a really quality program with some great incentives and quite affordable to most schools. And if there are schools that struggle to get the funds, we have that grant process available each year that our development team kind of works really hard to get that bucket of funds to disperse across the country to high-need schools.
So approximately how many schools or clubs do you guys have going these days, Kendrick, at any given time?
Yeah, so I mentioned before, we started off in Austin, Texas in 1995 with a roughly 2,000 kids participating in the program, mainly in Austin Independent School District. And particularly over the last 2.5 years, we've seen some massive growth. We now have just under 1,300 clubs across the states, in all 50 states, with around 180,000 runners doing marathon kids throughout the school year. So definitely seen a lot of growth. A lot of it has to do with our partnership with Nike, but the movement's real with marathon kids, and we're seeing a lot of great stories come out of the programs, which has been really satisfying for particularly the management here at Marathon Kids.
So are there any parting thoughts at all, Kendrick, or anything else that you want to make sure, schools, administrators, volunteers, what have you, know about your program, that type of thing?
I think I've pretty much covered a lot of it. What probably sets us aside from some other programs is our focus on the coach and our dedication to develop the coach into a real asset in the community. And the coach is our biggest asset. So we know we can't reach or communicate with every in the States, but we can reach and work with every coach in the United States. And that's what we really try to do. And the coach is our biggest asset. It's the participants' biggest asset. It's the parents and community and schools' biggest asset. So that's one of our real strengths, is our focus on the coach and developing them in the best way we can. We're doing our best to spread the awareness of our program and this great cause. And obviously with heart disease and diabetes and diseases like this being the biggest killer in the States now and for the past however knows long, a long time now, that heart disease has been the biggest killer in the States. It's really important that we get kids moving, and we think our evidence-based program is the most efficient way for kids to get their physical activity and start adopting this lifelong healthy behavior of just getting out and going for a small run, but doing it consistently every day or every second day or every third day, and making sure they're keeping their heart nice and healthy through the vehicle of simply going out and going for a short run.
So do you have any good success stories that you might share, either on the individual, on the club level, or on the coach level, or all the above, that people would love to hear? Absolutely.
We've got a lot of examples that have popped up over the last couple of years. Actually, in the background there, you'll see a picture. I'm actually in a Marathon Kids headquarters here in our conference room. And this is one of our participants participating in Austin Independent School District. His name's Trevor Reena. And he actually moved to the USA only a couple of years ago, and was adopted into a family here. And just naturally a great runner. But Started at a school, didn't have too many friends at the school. Obviously, was still new to the country, new to the environment, and he took up Marathon Kids, started running with our program, and I actually might just read the blurb here, which will explain it pretty well.
Yeah, go for it.
Trevor Reiner, known to us as T-Bone, that's his nickname, ended his first Marathon Kids season by completing 17 marathons, if you believe that. The year was all new for T-Bone. He got a new adoptive family, a new country, and a new school. A few of T-Bone's classmates noticed he ran fast and wanted to learn to run like him. Soon enough, every day, T-Bone and his new crew began tracking laps together. A few members of the Run Club crew ended up completing 12 marathons, all because of T-Bone, who inspired them to run. So I actually got to meet T-Bone a couple of years ago, and was there during that season. And his PE coach reached out to me and said, "Oh, KT, we've got this kid. He's just amazing. He's up to his 17th marathon already." And I was like, "What? He's only been doing this program for about 4 months. There's no possible way." Anyway, I went out to the school and saw him in action. He's a phenomenal runner. And the coach was actually asking if we had any more incentives for him, because he'd already earned the 4 incentives. So I said, "Look, we'll try and do something." We ended up getting him this soccer ball because he loves soccer, and got it signed by all of the teachers, and got him up there and presented it in front of the whole school assembly. And all the parents were there, the teachers were there, and it was a really good moment for T-Bone, and really gave him a sense of belonging within the school and within Austin and within the country, to be honest. And he is known as a king around that school now. And every time I see him out there, he has a little pack of kids following him, and no one can keep up with him. I think he's destined for great things. He could be on the US Olympic team one day, maybe running or in some sort of professional sport, because he's a super athlete. And the program is obviously designed for kids who may need more physical activity, but he's a great example of how the program can solidify a participant within the community and help them gain friends and really have a sense of belonging within their own little community. So great story there. He's actually part of the Austin Independent School district-wide implementation. So we implement Marathon Kids programming within AISD across all 82 schools, elementary schools, which is over 34,000 kids doing Marathon Kids daily. So we see a lot of great stories come out of that initiative, and particularly one to note is their FitnessGram scores have gone through the roof on average across the whole district. So the program is proven effective, it's evidence-based, and can really add some value to the community and the school, whether it's a small school of 30 kids or a large school district of 30,000 plus kids. So,
Kenrick Tyrell, thanks a lot for joining us in the School Zone today. Man, I'm inspired, and I trust that many of the listeners to the show will be as well. There's obviously a real need for this in our society today as technology kind of takes over the lives of many of us, and we become more and more sedentary as time goes on. So I appreciate what you guys are doing. Thanks for being willing to share, and join us here at the School Zone.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
No doubt. Hey, School Zone listeners. Just a reminder, if you have not taken a minute to go to schoolzonepodcast.com and download our 10 Top School Fundraising Ideas Guide for 2017, it is the best of the episodes that we had or produced in 2017 with some amazing companies, many of which you've probably never heard of before. The guide is completely free. Just take a minute to download that, and then feel free to share it with the educators, administrators, volunteers, parents, or others in other schools that you know. Our goal is to provide as much value for you and your schools to help you make good, sound decisions when it comes to fundraising and school resources like marathonkids.org. So anyway, schoolzonepodcast.com for the guide. And if you are already a subscriber, or if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please do. And if you wouldn't mind giving us a review on iTunes, we would appreciate it big time. The higher the number of reviews and stars that we have on iTunes, the more exposure that we get, the more schools like yours will get access to our podcast and content, and we'll be able to impact more kids that way. So appreciate you listening. And KT, once again, thanks for being on the show. Have a good one, man, and God bless.
Thank you.